Tuesday, June 11th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So the philosopher George Santayana once said, and I quote, "Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it." Luckily for my viewers, I'm into history, and I focus a lot on history because, as George Santayana said, you need to know what happened in the past to know or to try to guess what might happen in the future. Of course, history doesn't repeat itself exactly. So here we are, 11 years after the financial crisis of '08 that almost brought the whole system down. The European debt crisis in 2012 that bankrupted Greece, has almost bankrupted Italy. We see people or institutions like Goldman Sachs now going after the mom and pop, like the consumer. Goldman Sachs historically has been a bank for corporations, for institutions, but they're going after you, and this is why I'm making this video, to warn you. And have warned in the past. Back in November last year, I warned about this new consumer bank that Goldman Sachs has launched in the US and here in the UK as well, called Marcus. Marcus Goldman, of course, was one of the founders of Goldman Sachs and Co. One of the founding partners, and they used his name to start this company. And I warned about this in November, and lo and behold, I've seen something else come out now about Marcus, and this is in the FT. Today, it says, Goldman's Marcus Bank teams up with Saga to target over 50s. U.S. investment bank plans to tap into the savings potential of older UK clients. So who is Saga? Well, it says here, Saga is a British company. For those of you in the States, you probably won't know what Saga is. It says Saga is a British company focusing on serving the needs of those aged 50 and over, has 2.7 million customers. So I've received stuff from them. I'm over 50, but I'm not really interested in their services. So what do? It says here, Saga Holidays provide packaged holidays and tours across the globe. Saga services provide a wide range of insurance products: motor, home, travel, caravan, commercial van, pet, etc. Saga Personal Finance provides savings account, credit cards, and so on. So you see what I mean here. They provide services for over 50s. I'm not really into that. I've received junk mail from them. I just don't believe in that. Just because you're over 50, you need help from someone. It's a little bit, in my opinion, how can I say, patronizing. But anyway, let's see what Marcus and Saga are teaming up to do. And this is very interesting because last week there was big news here in the UK, and I made a video or two about it. Woodford Investment Management, this fund froze billions of pounds from investors in the UK, and it's come out as well that other institutions like fund managers or brokers or like pension fund companies, wealth managers, they've white labeled Woodford's products with their products. So here we have now the same thing happening for Saga. Will the Saga clients know that they're dealing with Goldman Sachs, the great vampire squid? And I'll come to that in a minute. I doubt it, but let's see what the FT says here. Sarah Proven from the FT, and I quote, Goldman Sachs plans to team up its customer bank in the UK with Saga, which specializes in products and services for the over 50s as part of the international expansion of its retail banking arm. Marcus by Goldman, which accepted its first UK depositors in August and offered one of the highest interest rates in the country, will become Saga's long-term savings partner, and they plan to launch products together from the autumn, a statement from the UK group said on Tuesday. So these products, it will be interesting to see if they're just going to be Saga products, and people who buy the Saga products, will they know that this is actually Goldman Sachs? A bit like Woodford for the Hargreaves Lansdowne clients, for the St. James's Place clients. Did they know this was from Woodford? This is going to be interesting. It says here, Goldman, known traditionally as a trading and investment banking Wall Street powerhouse, has made its move into retail banking, an important part of its strategy to increase revenue by $5 billion over 3 years to 2020. So, what about Goldman Sachs and its past? Some of you might say, oh, you're being, how can I say, paranoid about Goldman Sachs. You hate the bankers, or... No, I'm just looking at the facts. And one of the greatest articles that I recommend for people to read was written by Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone magazine back in 2010. And the article is entitled "The Great American Bubble Machine: From Tech Stocks to High Gas Prices, Goldman has engineered every major market manipulation since the Great Depression, and they're about to do it again." Well, they haven't done it yet, since 2010, but you can bet that once a crisis hit, they're going to be involved. So highly recommend this article. So he goes over the bubble of the Great Depression, how Wall Street won big. What's the second bubble? The tech stock bubble he goes over. Tech.com bubble, how Goldman was involved. Third bubble, the housing craze. Of course, the other film or documentary I recommend is The Big Short. You see Goldman Sachs heavily involved in that as well. That's bubble 3. Bubble 4, $4 a gallon petrol or gasoline. Bubble 5, rigging the bailout. Well, of course, the guys who engineered the bailout, Ben Bernanke, he wasn't a Goldman guy, but Hank Paulson, Treasury Secretary at the time, he just left Goldman Sachs a couple of years before. He was the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and he brought in someone called Neel Kashkari to run the TARP program. He was ex-Goldman Sachs. The current Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, he was former Goldman Sachs, made a killing from the bailouts in California with one of the local banks there. Bubble number 6, global warming bubble. So what does it say in the end here of Matt Taibbi's article? It says, but this is it. This is the world we live in now. And in this world, some of us have to play by the rules, while others get a note from the principal excusing them from homework till the end of time. Plus 10 billion free dollars in a paper bag to buy lunch. It's a gangster state running on gangster economics, and even prices can't be trusted anymore. There are hidden taxes in every buck you pay, and maybe we can't stop it, but we should at least know where it's all going. So you've been warned, and Matt Taibbi has warned the public, and I remember this article, reading it, and I was still in the city at the time. So, for example, in the crisis of '08, Goldman Sachs was going to lose billions. They put on a winning trade with AIG Financial Products, and AIG was going to go under. The whole insurance company, AIG Financial Product, was the derivatives arm of AIG in London. So what happened? The U.S. Treasury, Hank Paulson, bailed them out with your money, $160 billion. And Goldman Sachs got 100 cents on the dollar. They got all their profit paid by you. So that's the kind of bank Goldman Sachs is, and highly recommend this article. So what else have Goldman Sachs been doing? Well, in Europe, they've been involved, for example, in Italy, when we had the European debt crisis in around 2012. The ECB kicked out Berlusconi, who was prime minister, and they put in a guy called Mario Monti, who was a Goldman Sachs advisor. What else did Goldman do? Well, Goldman helped Greece adopt the euro to, converge, hide its debt to become a member of the eurozone and use the euro. And look at what what happened to Greece. Greece collapsed. Taxpayer has taken on the debt. The bankers have been made whole. There was a caretaker prime minister as well in Greece, who was a former Goldman employee and former head of the Greek central bank as well. Where else are they involved? Oh, I forgot ECB. Mario Draghi, former Goldman. He was the man behind helping not only Greece, but Italy fudge their books to get into the euro. And Mario Draghi is still president of the ECB. He leaves this year. Oh, Mark Carney, governor of the Bank of England. Oh, ex-Goldman Sachs as well. Former New York Fed governor. Bill Dudley, former Goldman Sachs. And, you go back to the 90s and under Clinton, and this is not about party, under Clinton, Robert Rubin, who was CEO of Goldman Sachs before he became Treasury Secretary under Clinton. And what did Robert Rubin push? Well, for the scrapping or abolition of Glass-Steagall in 1999. By that time, he had left, that is true, as Treasury Secretary, but it was under his watch that this was pushed through. And where did Robert Rubin go to work after he left the Treasury? Well, he went to Citibank or Citigroup, who was one of the biggest beneficiaries of the repeal of Glass-Steagall. And he got a job there for just doing nothing, basically, sitting in an office. And then Citibank got bailed out as well in 2008. And Mr. Rubin, I think, left, retired with over 100 million. I'm not sure exactly in funds. So that's how they work. If you want to get involved in markets, you need to be, how can I say, aware of this. Am I saying that everyone at Goldman Sachs, you shouldn't deal with them? No, but I'm just warning you. The other thing about Goldman Sachs that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of times people go on about Deutsche Bank, how it's got so much, such a big derivatives book of like $40 trillion. But did you know as well, according to the OCC.gov website, Treasury website, Goldman Sachs, as of the last quarter of last year, had 33,950 billion notional derivatives, or 33.95 trillion notional, how can I say, exposure to derivatives. And the other thing about these derivatives is that they are all off balance sheet. I wonder if the people at Saga asked Goldman Sachs or Marcus about that. Who's going to be liable? Where's that money? How's that money going to be protected if there is a crisis? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, how can I say, people who are going to get hurt. So be careful with all this outsourcing, especially with what happened with the Woodford Investment Management, how they outsourced to other groups like Hargreaves and Lansdowne. Now Saga, you need to be careful when you're dealing with Saga, especially in the investment and savings department, because that's going to be, you're basically dealing with Goldman Sachs and an investment bank that has basically been behind, every pump and dump since the 1920s. They, like the old saying goes, give me control of the money supply, the monetary system, and I care not who makes the laws. Well, Goldman has gone a step further. They control the money supply through their lackeys at the central banks, but they also have put their lackeys or their former employees in positions of government, like the U.S. Treasury. So they've you need to be careful, yeah, look at the history. Don't just believe me. Google Goldman Sachs and Marcus, the Great Vampire Squid. Read this article by Matt Taibbi. I highly recommend it. So, just a warning. The analogy, I guess, is Saga is a shepherd, and they're taking its flock, to the wolf, and the wolf is Goldman Sachs. So I'm not sure Saga did their homework, but as I said, very few people look at history. They forget 11 years ago. To me, doesn't seem a long time ago, but it is for many people. They think it's ancient history. You've been warned. Marcus and Saga, I don't think anything good will come out of it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you share this far and wide in order to warn people about these developments. Share it far and wide with people you think might enjoy this kind of content, to wake people up to what's happening out there. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.